Are you looking for a free Notice of Privacy Practices form? Well, guess what? The federal government has actually created one for you, and it's pretty good. So I am going to walk you through how you can find this Notice of Privacy Practices and the couple of things that you want to tweak because you're a mental health practitioner. This form is really created for general healthcare practices, so there are a few things that don't apply to us that we can just take out or tweak a little bit. So here I've already typed in free Notice of Privacy Practices form, and you'll see the first thing that comes up is this model Notice of Privacy Practices, and here it'll show Notices Privacy Practices Index. So that's going to take you directly to the page you want that has the form. So we'll click on there, and here it says Model Notice of Privacy Practices. Scroll to the bottom, and you'll see instructions. These are instructions for you to follow. You can download those if you want, but for the actual free form, NPP provider files. So that is for you as an individual practice. Here are health plans, so we don't need that. They have them in English and Spanish, and I recommend that you simply download the text version. Now you see we have our text version. It's not super pretty, but the nice thing is it's already here in Word and you can edit it. So you can add your information up top here and then scroll down. Now let's look at this form. You'll see here it says layered summary text. That you want to replace, but it's telling you that this is a layered form. What that means is this first page is a summary for your clients. So it has your rights, your choices, our disclosures, our uses and disclosures. So if you're an individual practitioner, you can change this to say my uses and disclosures. So make it as personable as you can. And if you want to add an extra intro, you can. You don't really need to. Then underneath here, it goes into detail. So it goes back to your rights and it identifies each of those points more in depth. Then it goes your choices, again, each of those points more in depth, etc. Now, the other thing that you want to look at here is how else can we use or share your health information? So again, you could say I if you're making this really individualized. And you want to look at how many of these apply to you as a mental health practitioner. So for example, as a mental health practitioner, you do not have to share information about people having adverse reactions to medication, right? You don't have to report on that. So these forms are created for medical professionals. So you'll see medical professionals do actually have the ability to do a lot of reporting on different things because of the focus on preventing disease. We don't have that as a mental health professional, so you can adjust those things. You'll see up here things such as public health and research. Now, if you're involved in research projects, you might need to keep some of this. If you're not, then you can totally take out the part about doing research. You don't need to have things in here that don't apply to you. This is a model Notice of Privacy Practices. So it's something that's created as a template that you can copy. That's great, but it doesn't mean it's perfect for you. Another big thing that is here that totally doesn't relate to us is things like respond to organ and tissue donation requests. We're not doing that as a mental health professional, so please remove that. Work with a medical examiner or funeral director. We're not going to be doing that either. So make sure you do look through all these points, understand what's in here and what you're sharing with people, and take out the things that don't apply. Another thing you want to do is scroll down here, changes to this notice, how do you inform people, and then here it even says insert effective date. So when are you doing this? If you're doing this today, April 2nd, 2018, then put in that date, and that's the effective date for that notice. And then if you change it, if you change the notice, you want to make sure you change that date as well. For yourself, if you are a solo private practitioner, then you are your privacy officer. So insert the name and title of the privacy official. That's going to be you. Insert any special notes that apply to your entity's practices, such as we never market or sell personal information. If you have a newsletter, an email list, anything like that, if you collect people's names for potential workshops you do, then you probably want to keep something like that in there, right? So you would just take out that first section of the sentence and say, I never market or sell personal information collected via email or something like that. The next point is important. There are different states that apply the privacy rule a little bit differently. So if you know that your state has specific laws or regulations that relate to you, make sure you add those here. You likely don't need to worry about the blue button product protocol, so you can take that out. And you likely aren't part of an organized healthcare arrangement. That would mean, for it, like in the example here, that you have coordinated with a hospital or another area or something, and so that the form applies to both of you. If you have, then, include something like that in there. Another thing you want to add here is how can people make a complaint about you? So if that's already in your form elsewhere, like in your services agreement or contract, like I have in my paperwork packet, then you don't need to add that here. But if you don't have that, add it in, and usually at the bottom is a great place to do that. Make sure that you keep this information here available for people. So if they do want to learn more about HIPAA and what it means for them, there you go. You can just direct them to the official government website so that they can learn more about HIPAA, because honestly, most of us don't know a lot about it. We know very, very little. I mean, it's like thousands and thousands and thousands of words, the law. So it's something that most lawyers don't even know everything about. So obviously we apply it as best we can. And remember that as a solo practitioner, you're not required to know everything about HIPAA, but you are required to do some research into how it applies to you, how to protect your clients, and, and whether or not it applies to you. And you are required to give people this notice if you're a HIPAA covered entity. So make sure that you do at least a little bit of research and you can explain to people what HIPAA is. Also, make sure that you do look through the form, understand it, that you've read every single word so you know how it really does apply to you and how it applies to your clients. And remember that this is not a form that you need to have signed. There was no signature at the bottom, right? All you need to do is have your client's signature saying that they reviewed this. So you could have this form in your office, stapled, you could have it laminated, however you want. You only have to have the form available to people. I would recommend if you, once you have it, just put it on your website. That way it's there for people if they ever wanted to look at it. Super easy. So don't think that you have to actually, give this form to everyone or have everyone sign it. Just make it available to them. All right, now you know how to get to the Notice of Privacy Practices form. You don't have to search online. You don't have to ask a bunch of people for it. So head over there, download it, and if you are still looking for help with your paperwork, especially your intake paperwork, you can check out my intake packet. There's a link below. You can see exactly what's included there and get more resources on my website.